Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. Welcome back to a Division 2 video. After development stream, we got a bunch of extra information throughout the patch notes. There are a lot of extra changes that the developers did not talk about, and I want to go over a few today, especially towards the gear and the weapons. There are a lot of changes between Phase 1 and Phase 2. I will leave all the information on the screen, but I will only be talking about the items that are changed between Phase 1 and Phase 2. But don't worry, you will still see all the information on your screen. So let's start with the weapon category, starting with the rifles. These are all the changes that will be implemented from TU21, what we know in the game right now, to TU22, the future update. The only thing that they changed in the rifle category is the 1886. We're still getting a buff from TU21 to TU22, but in Phase 1 they noticed they buffed it up a little bit too much, so they adjusted the damage values. Then for our next category, we're going over the MMRs, and there are 4 changes from Phase 1 to Phase 2. They changed the SR1. They are still nerfing it. In Phase 1 it was nerfed a little bit too much and they brought it back for Phase 2. The M700 got a nerf as well, and again in Phase 1 it was nerfed a little bit too much and they brought it back for Phase 2. The SRS got changed as well, as the SRS will receive a nerf, but again, the SRS got a little bit too much of a nerf within Phase 1 and got adjusted in Phase 2. And then the last one is the 308. The 308 will show up as a red number, but it is buffed, as it was nerfed in Phase 1, but now in Phase 2, as you can clearly see it, it is buffed. It went from 324,000 to 403,000. So that's a little error on their side. It was nerfed on Phase 1, that's why it was red. And in Phase 2, it got buffed, but as you can see, it's still red, but see it as, of course, a buff. And for our next category, we have our shotguns, and there are a bunch of changes for the shotguns. 6 different shotguns have been changed from Phase 1 to Phase 2, and there are different changes as well, as the double-barreled and the sawed-off shotgun both got their rate of fire back to 200 instead of the nerf that we saw to 100 rate of fire in Phase 1 of the BTS, and they adjusted the reload time a little bit as well. For the SASG, they adjusted the damage a little bit as well, as they nerfed it too much in Phase 1 and brought it up a little bit on Phase 2. The Super 90 got adjusted in its damage as well, was nerfed a little bit too much in Phase 1, brought up in Phase 2. Then the buff of the Spaz got adjusted a little bit. It will still be a buff, but it was too powerful in Phase 1, so they adjusted it down a little bit, but it will still receive a buff from what we know in the game right now. And then for the last shotgun, we have the KSG, and the KSG still will get a nerf, but they adjusted a little bit as it was too strong in Phase 1. And then for the pistol category, there's only one change, or better said, there's only one addition, and that's the Harvest. And they brought the Harvest up in its damage, they brought it up in its rate of fire, but the reload speed and the optimal range got nerfed a little bit. And then for our last weapon category within these changes, it will be the SMGs, and there's only one thing changed, and that's the MP7. The MP7 will still receive a nerf, but it's a little less of a nerf than we saw within Phase 1, and that's the only change they did to the SMGs. The MP7 will still get a nerf from TU21 to TU22, but it's not that impactful as it was in Phase 1. And then let's go over the brand sets, because we have a bunch of reverted changes for the brand set as well. And yes, that also includes Ceska, Providence, and Sokolov. So let's start with the first one, Alps Summit. Alps Summit has been nerfed a little bit, but adjusted to 18% repair skills. Electrique has also been adjusted, but has been reverted back to how it is right now, so you won't see a change from TU21 TU21 to TU22. Empress International got nerfed a little bit to 8% skill efficiency, and for Murakami they adjusted everything. They nerfed the skill duration, they upped the repair skills, and they nerfed the skill damage as the third attribute. For Wyvern they changed a few things around as well. They nerfed the skill damage but upped the status effects and the skill duration. And then for Golan they reverted it back how it is right now, so you won't see a change between TU21 and TU22. And then of course, going over the fan favorite Ceska, yes, it's still nerfed but not as impactful as it was in phase 1. So we're getting a 2% nerf on the critical hit chance instead of the 3.5% it was before on phase 1, and we will still get the hazard protection buff. For Providence they changed a bunch around because that was kinda nerfed into the ground. Everything hit with that minus 3.5%, and now everything is hit with minus 2%. So still a nerf, but a little less impactful, just like with Ceska. And then the same changes has been applied for the last one. For Sokolov, instead of minus 3.5%, what it was in phase 1, they went to minus 2% right now. And this already feels a lot better than at minus 3.5%, because if you combine everything, then it will probably be only one change of your critical hit chance to get you up to those values. And then for our last topic, we're going over the exotic weapons real quick. We already touched on it yesterday, but they are pretty impactful changes as they reverted back a bunch of changes on the Scorpio, the Saint Elmo, and the Ouroboros. And to start with the Scorpio, it will still receive a nerf, but not as harsh as in phase 1, as now in phase 2 we need to shoot 2 shots, 4 shots, 6 shots, and 9 shots to max it out, where in phase 1 it was a little bit too much. And then for the Saint Elmo and for the Ouroboros, they gave us the 10 rounds back, and that is a huge W. All of the other changes will still apply. So for example, for the Saint Elmo, it will still receive the nerf on the critical hit damage, on the critical hit chance, and on the weapon handling as intended, but they gave us our 10 rounds back. Especially for that Ouroboros, this is goated. As on phase 1, you really had the feeling that you were reloading more than shooting that gun, and for the Saint Elmo, it's a W as well, as now it doesn't feel as long to proc your talent to shock your enemies. And these are all the changes from phase 1 to phase 2. Phase 2 will be live right now whenever you see this video. We will be live streaming at the moment as well, so jump over to twitch.com/IamPurePrime. We will be testing things. If you have any questions about it, if you want me to test anything out, jump in and let's test together. Thank you very much for sticking until the end. Like the video if you liked the video or helped you out in any way or form. And of course, if you're new here and or you want to be updated by the Division 2, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. And I will see you in the next one. Pure Prime out.